Hey everyone, today we're going to be solving inverse functions. So inverse functions are technically kind of like if you have a function, reflecting it over the line y equals x. So this would be the line y equals x, and if you have, let's say, a graph that for some reason looked like this, then if you want to find the inverse of that, you're technically just finding the equation of the graph that's reflected over the central axis. We're going to reflect it over and it'll look something like this approximately. So you're basically just finding the equation of this part. So it's pretty simple. First off, you see the problem we have here on the left is f of x equals 2x plus 3. First, what you're going to want to do is replace the f of x and change it to y. So we're going to write y equals 2x plus 3. And now we're going to switch the y and the x. So the x is going to be switched with the y. So we're going to make the x go in the position of the y and the y goes in the position of the x. So it'll become x equals 2y plus 3. So our first step is to basically switch f of x and make it y. And then our second step is to interswitch x and y. So now that we've interswitched x and y over here, all we've got to do now is solve for y. So we're just going to solve for y. Now, I've talked a lot about solving equations for a particular variable in my previous video, and if you want a more in-depth explanation, then I'd suggest you guys go check out that video. But just for like a short explanation, we have x equals 2y plus 3. You want to remove this 3, so you subtract 3 from both sides, so you get x minus 3 is equal to 2y. To get rid of 2, you're going to want to multiply by a half, so you multiply by a half on both sides, and technically it'll be multiplied to the entire item. So you need to do 1/2 x minus 3/2 equals y. Now this is your final answer, but of course if you want to write it as a function and as an inverse function, you would write it as f inverse of x is equal to 1/2 x minus 3 over 2. So let's try another example. Here's our next example. So we have f of x equals x plus 3 over x minus 3. So our first step is to replace f of x with y. So we're going to write y equals x plus 3 over x minus 3. And now we want to basically interswitch x and y. So we're going to put x wherever we have y and y wherever we have x. So instead, we only have one y. So we're going to write x equals, and since we have two x's, we're just going to replace them with y's. Now you're going to want to solve for y. Now there's two different places where y occurs, so just watch as I take you through how to do this. First, since you only have one unit, because this is only one unit, it's not being added or subtracted to anything, it's one term, you're just going to first want to do is get rid of the denominator. Now normally if we have a denominator of like 1/2 y, we would multiply by 2 so that the denominators cancel. In this case, we have a denominator of y over 3. Ignore the 1 over here. To get rid of that, you'd multiply by y minus 3. So you're going to cancel them out. So what we're going to do now is multiply both sides by y minus 3. That way, we get rid of the denominator on this right-hand side. So as you can see on the right-hand side, it's going to cancel out. And on the left-hand side, you're going to want to expand. So x times y, and then negative 3 times x. So it's going to be yx minus 3x equals y plus 3. So that's where we are right now. Now, as you can see, what we want to do to solve is bring all of our terms to the one side. So since we're solving for y, we want to bring all our y terms to one side. So as you can see, we have a y term on the right. Let's bring that to the left. So if we're going to bring it onto the left, you're going to want to subtract y on both sides. That way, you get rid of the y on this side and you're just subtracting it. Technically, you're just kind of like moving it into this side. So this is our final equation right here. We have yx minus 3x minus y is equal to 3. Let's move this 3x to the right-hand side because we only want y terms. So we're going to add both sides, 3x. We're going to add 3x to both sides. And that's how we're going to get rid of this term. Now, again, if you don't understand this very clearly, go check out my previous video on solving equations for a particular variable. So we have yx minus y equals 3 plus 3x. Now, we have two y's. What's one thing we can do? We could factor. If we factor out the y, you'll get x minus 1. And then we're going to leave the right-hand side the same because we're just factoring. Now that we've factored, you see that we have only one y over here, which is being multiplied to this term. Now, if it's being multiplied to this term, let's say we want to get rid of this x minus 1. what would we do? Just think of it as if it was like 2y. How would you get rid of the 2? You'd multiply by a half, so these two cancel, and you're left with the y. That's essentially what we're going to be doing here. We're going to multiply by 1 over 6 minus 1. So let's move it over here to give some more space. We're going to do 1 over x minus 1 times what we have up there. So over here, this is our whole term, y times x minus 1, and we're going to multiply it by x minus 1. And then we're going to do that to the right-hand side as well. I'm going to do 1 over x minus 1. We're going to multiply it. Now, if you expand it on both sides, you can see that this canceled out with this, so you're left with y. And it's equal to, technically, since you're multiplying 3 plus 3x over 1 times 1 over this, it's just going to result in 3 plus 3x over x minus 1. And that will be your final answer. Of course, if you want to write it with function notation, then you would just write that f inverse of x is equal to 3 plus 3x over x minus 1. Okay, so this is going to be our last example. It does look a bit more confusing, but it's honestly really simple. So we have f of x equals 3x plus 1 over x plus 3 minus 3. Now, first, we're going to write f of x as y. So we're going to write this as y equals 3x plus 1 over x plus 3 minus 3. Now we're going to switch out our x's and y's. Now it doesn't matter if you have two x's on the right hand side, you're still only going to swap them out with the one y you have. So wherever you have a y, you're going to make it an x, and wherever you have an x, you're going to make it a y. So let's change this y to become an x. 3y plus 1 over y plus 3 minus 3. Now, of course, if your two variables are, let's say, g of x equals x plus 3, then you would technically do the same thing. You're just swapping out the, you can just write this as a y, and if you have like something else like that, you just swap them out according to the variables you have. It doesn't matter what letter variable you have, just swap them out. So we have x equals 3y plus 1 over y plus 3 minus 3. Now, as you can see, we have two different terms here. 3 is on its own, and first we're going to want to get rid of 3. So to get rid of the 3, you add 3 to both sides, so you get rid of it on the right. You get x plus 3 equals 3y plus 1 over y plus 3. Let's move it down so we have some more space. And now, as you can see, we have a term on the left-hand side and a term on the right. As in the previous example, we're going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So we want to get rid of this denominator, so we're going to multiply both sides by that denominator. So let's multiply by y plus 3 on both sides. As you can see, we're going to multiply this whole term with this. So we're going to want to put brackets around the x plus 3. It'll cancel on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, you're basically doing y times x times y times 3, and then 3 times x and 3 times 3. So it's going to become yx plus 3y plus 3x plus 9. And if you don't understand that, I would suggest you go check out some other videos on expanding binomials, and you'd probably be able to figure it out. But now on the right hand side, we're just going to get 3y plus 1. And as I said before, we're going to bring all our y's to one side and all our x's to the other side. If you have a y and an x, that's fine. Leave it on the side with the y's. So on the left hand side, we have this term 3x and this term 9, which don't belong there. And all we need to do is bring this to the left hand side. So let's work one by one. Let's try to get rid of the terms on the left-hand side first. So let's try to get rid of 3x plus 9. So to get rid of that, you're just going to want to do minus 3x and minus 9. So you get rid of it on the left-hand side, but we're going to add 3x and add 9 on the right-hand side. Sorry, subtract, because we're doing that on the left-hand side. We're going to want to do the same thing on the right, subtract. So we're going to get yx plus 3y here, and we're going to get 3y plus 1 minus 3x minus 9. Next, we're going to want to bring this 3y over to the left, so we're going to subtract both sides by 3y, so you get rid of it on the right, but you bring it to the left, and we're going to get yx. And as you can see, actually, these two 3y's cancel, because if you do 3y minus 3y, they cancel, so you only have yx. So yx equals negative 3x minus 8, and if you don't know how I got that, we have a positive 3y over here. I subtracted these two, and I got 0. And then I did 1 minus 9, which is negative 8 as we did here. And then I just brought that negative 6 down here. Pretty simple. As you can see on the left, we only want to have our x. So since we only want to have our y, sorry. So since we have our x, we are going to want to bring it over to the right-hand side. How do you get rid of that x? You multiply by the reciprocal. As I said before, check out my previous video if you don't understand that. And you'll see that the x's cancel, so you get y equals, and you're going to want to do 1 over x times the whole thing. The easiest way to write this would be negative 3x minus 8 over x. You can simplify it. Actually, I don't think you can simplify it, but it's best to leave it as it is. If you want to simplify it, it would become y equals negative 3x over x minus 8 over x, which will then be y equals negative 8 over x minus 3. So what I just did was I split the denominator to be able to do that. So yeah, that's it for this video. Comment down below if you guys have any questions, and that's it.